Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky, and I'm joined as always by the man who once had a pair of pants thrown at him with the message, "Nancy says they're on fire," and he's the man with the hose. It's Greg. How are you today, buddy?
In my own, I wish.
You wish that Nancy was throwing her pants at you. Are you really like a bit of Jan Wilson, do you?
She's a unique looking lady, Jan Wilson.
She is, yeah. She certainly is. Clatty Bella in all her glory. How are you today, buddy? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm not bad. So my sister is getting married in Newcastle in October. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give some of my kilt gear a bit of an upgrade because I've had it. I bought it all when I got married, so it's put in a good shift. I've had it for almost 20 years, so I thought, right, I need some new shoes because the last time I wore my kilt shoes, the sole was starting to come off. And I thought I'll get some new shoes. I got some new flashes and a tie and a new shirt, and I ordered it from we're not being paid for this, by the way, but I ordered it from Slange, a kilt shop in Glasgow. I should really go by the name Greg McPhee because that's my father's second name. The reason I don't is because my mum sort of persuaded me to take my stepfather's name when I was 9, which, and through the modern prism might be child abuse. Certainly wasn't considered so then. But I thought, well, I wonder if, because like Cameron has a lot of different tartans, you know what I mean? And I could, my mum's, like my granny's maiden name was Cameron. So I could get away with a Cameron kilt, if I wanted to. But I thought, I wonder if, but I was looking at all these different colour Cameron tartans, and I thought, I wonder if there's more than one McPhee, like tartan, because my spelling of McPhee is McPhee, but whether it's MACFIE or MACPHEE, it's all the same clan. And there's only one tartan. But it led me down a bit of a rabbit hole of just looking at a bit of the history of the clan McPhee. And I discovered, right? Well, I discovered that we come from Colonsay, which is an island in the Inner Hebrides, on the west coast of Scotland. The Gaelic name is Mac Du Shi, which translates as, you ready for this? Son of the Dark Fairy.
Oh, Son of the Dark Fairy.
Yeah.
Oh,
it says, the Dark Fairy is synonymous with the dark stranger who must be the first to cross the threshold at the turn of the new year, bringing presents of food and drink and symbolising good fortune. It's also anglicised to McDuffie, which is another way of referring to the clan. And in some early manuscripts, both names are used to refer to the same person. The identity of the stranger is mysterious, but legend gives the family of McPhee its descent from the supernatural creature who was thought to come from the sea. So the descent of the McPhees is shrouded in legend and traditional folklore. So there you go.
Wow. Okay, so what are you going to do with this newfound knowledge and power?
I'll probably just tell people at parties to make myself seem more interesting than I actually am, to be honest.
I've just got this idea now of that. Fuck, what sketch is it? The Burniston sketch where Ralph Lawrence is speaking to someone at the party and then he just turns to the camera and his eyes go yellow, and then I've just got this idea of you telling someone at a party, yes, I am a descendant of the Dark Fairy, and then turning and your eyes going yellow. Yeah, so you seduce them into the dark arts of the fairy McPhee land. Is that where is Nanny McPhee? Is that the dark arts as well? I've never seen it, so I've no idea.
I've never seen it either, but I can only assume so. I had to look at some famous McPhees. Oh. There's Frank McPhee, who was a Glasgow gangster who was shot dead by a sniper rifle.
Oh, my condolences.
In Glasgow. Obviously, there's Cody Smith McPhee, the actor. There's Joe McPhee, who's an African-American jazz musician. George McPhee, a ice hockey player. Most of them are in America. Obviously, there's Nanny McPhee, but it's not really real, but still famous. There's Jack and Andy McPhee off Dawson's Creek. Remember Jack and Andy?
I do, yeah. Jack and Andy, yeah, I do. Yeah. That's right, yeah. Jack, I think he turned out, he was gay.
He became
did
gay,
Andy not go a bit crazy enough to get like locked up? So
yeah, I think because
did you say he became a bit gay?
Maybe didn't. So he realised that he was homosexual, or the writer decided that he should be. But because I was in this McPhee rabbit hole, and I hadn't thought about Andy and Jack McPhee for about 25 years, so I thought I'd sort of like refresh my Dawson's Creek memory. So of course, because my brain's wired the way it is, I've got to click on everybody's Wikipedia and learn everything about them. And the actress who plays Andy, she was born in 1969, whereas the rest of the cast, like Katie Holmes, James Van Der Beek, and Joshua Jackson, were all born like in 1977 or 1978.
Yeah.
But she was obviously playing the same age as Lem, even though she was like almost 10 years older.
I do seem to remember quite fancying Andy back in the day.
Until she went bananas. She was attractive.
Yeah, but I think that was, I don't know, it was just a very fleeting, it was just more of a, oh yeah, I like Andy. Maybe it was because I didn't want to like the two main ones.
I thought she went bananas because Joshua Jackson's character rejected her for Pacey.
No, Pacey was Joshua Jackson's character.
Oh, yeah. Who was... Oh, Joey.
Joey.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So Pacey rejected her for Joey.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's fair enough, because Katie Holmes was absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, well, there you go. There's the Dawson's Creek up. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Dawson's Creek. Okay, so great. Yeah. Well, that's the McPhee update. Wonderful. Yeah,
Thanks R.I.P. James Van Der Beek.
Yeah, R.I.P. James Van Der Beek. Yeah, gone too soon. Just before we go on to the news, actually, I just wanted to bring up something. Just an open question of debate, really. And it's something I hadn't brought up with you. It's a serious topic hat on for a second.
Okay.
There were there was a court case last month, and a famous Scottish actor, we'll just name him, Ian Robertson, was found guilty of some very horrible crimes. Now, we've covered stuff with him in the past. Now, now, how do we, I'm not going to delete that from the internet, but I think it's safe to say that we could put this out as like a little warning, maybe, that like, obviously any comments we've made about him in the past are reflective of, before the crimes were committed. And since,
before
now...
we knew he was a stoat.
Yeah, because there are things that we will cover that he's in, the stuff I want to cover that he's in. And I think it's much like how we handle Guthrie, we'll just kind of gloss over their performance and be like, yeah, they were good, and then move on. Don't talk about them as a person. I think because then you're restricting the other actors that are in because for example, if I think about the match, the scenes with Ian Robertson and Bill Forsyth were so good. They were just this little comic kind of moment. It would be a shame to take that away from Bill Forsyth's moment to not speak about that element, but we will separate the actor from. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of worth saying because we've joked about him in the past, and we said stuff like Cosmo's Party with he was hooking up with Joy McAvoy and stuff. It's maybe not so funny in hindsight, but it's in the past, and
we didn't know.
We didn't know. Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up in a little disclaimer.
Yeah,
but
I think that's fair. I mean, I think I agree. Like, because like a movie like Small Faces although most of the plot sort of revolves around his character, it is still a really good sort of ensemble. The Joseph McFadden and Kevin McKidd and everyone. So it's one of my favourite films. Small Faces, I think, and I'd be disappointed if I'm not there to watch it again.
Well, that's it, and things like The Debt Collector, and there's a lot of good stuff that he's in. So we'll just obviously tread carefully in future if we're covering him in anything, and we'll take it from there. But I see he's appealing, so we'll see what happens there. Anyway, shall we have a look at what's been happening in Scotland over the last couple of weeks?
Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, buddy, what have you seen in Scotland over the last couple of weeks that has caught your lovely eye?
So we've had quite a lot of stories over the years about seagulls.
We have.
And what a bunch of bastards they are. Well, this is actually a good news seagull story. This seagull, quite from the looks of the picture, quite a young seagull looking to perhaps reform the reputation of his fellow seagulls. It comes from the Daily Record on the 3rd of August. And the headline is, Seagull brings lost £10 note back to Harry Potter train worker. Florence McLean lost the cash while working as a guard on the famous Jacobite steam train. Earlier this month, she was standing on the platform at Mallaig Station in the West Highlands when she dropped a £10 note on the track as the train was about to leave for Fort William. When the station manager took a look on the track for Florence, he was unable to find the cash. Assuming it had blown away, Florence headed back to Fort William. She was in Mallaig Station a few days ago on the same service when she noticed a young seagull flying overhead with a £10 note in its beak. It then landed on the track with the tenner in its mouth. Recognising it as the same £10 she lost 14 days earlier, Florence jumped down onto the track and grabbed it from the seagull. She's going to be £190 worse off, because if the British Rail finds you doing... I mean, I think she's okay because she works on the train, doesn't she?
Okay, so she's all right. Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah. Florence, who works on the world-famous Jacobite steam train, said she was amazed to get the £10 back intact. She added, I'd originally got into my pocket to get the tenner, and it just flew out my hands down on the line. Then 2 weeks later, when I'm back at Mallaig and around the same time, a seagull flew over me and dropped it on the line. I could not believe that the seagull had returned my lost tenner. Both incidents coincidentally happened while the train was due to begin its return journey to Fort William. The Jacobite steam and Mallaig route features in the Hogwarts Express sequences for the Harry Potter movies. Florence added, I remember seeing the seagull with a tenner in its mouth and me shouting, "That's my £10!" It was hilarious. After 2 weeks, you would not have believed it. I think the tenner has gone under the platform, and that's where the seagull has found it. It's so bizarre. Florence said there was a couple of people that she worked with who saw the incident with the seagull. The 65-year-old, who's from Fort William, has worked in the railways for 44 years and been a guard on the Jacobite steam train for 31 years. Over the years, she's met a number of celebrities on the busy route, ranging from Elaine C. Smith to not the 9 o'clock news star Griff Rhys-Jones. I mean, she must have been able to think of something more current for Griff Rhys-Jones and not the 9 o'clock news. Fucking hell, it's like 40 years since that was on. More than 40 years, almost 50 years. For goodness sake. But yeah, so I guess we owe the seagull community an apology. I mean, there is a photograph that looks real. It doesn't look AI or anything, of the young seagull holding a corner
in his mouth.
Oh, yeah, I'll send you it. Very gently holding it. So I guess it's a little Hogwarts miracle.
I mean, where do you stand on this? I mean, obviously the evidence is undeniable that this seagull has held on to her tenner and has returned it to her. It's a Christmas miracle, a Hogwarts miracle. It's a kind of magic, if you will. This is wonderful. So you believe this story, do you?
I mean, I kind of want to believe it.
Oh yeah, there's the photo. Yeah. That's lovely. Oh, little bird, the tenner in his note. Oh, and a tenner in his note. That's lovely. That's the kind of heartwarming stories you like to kick things off. But yeah, so you want to believe.
Normally our stories about seagulls are of them like dive bombing women trying to put their shopping in the car in Aberdeen, or you know what I mean, or stealing toast, or guy. Remember the guy who had to sell like insurance with his toasties. Yeah. In case a seagull flew down and took out the customer's hand.
Oh, they're vicious little bastards. So yeah, they have to be controlled. But that's a lovely tale. But it's a young seagull. I'm sure it'll learn the ways in future and become a menace like its big siblings.
It's got plenty of time to become a bastard, I'm sure. But anyway, that's my first story this week. What is your first story?
I will go with my train station story then, Greg, because it kind of links in. So I'll go with the train station story first. This is from the Scottish Sun last week, and the headline is "Off the Rails." Staff at a station made famous in the BBC, the Traitors, are facing abuse from angry tourists because steam trains are not running during the roasting wildfire conditions. Strathspey Railway in Aviemore has won swathes of fans thanks to its appearances in the hit reality TV show, which is filmed at Ardross Castle. But the volunteer-run company has warned raging visitors against ploughing into its volunteers after it swapped steam locomotives for diesel ones. In a statement shared on Facebook, Strathspey Railway wrote, "We've had a number of questions over the past few days about why some of our services have been operated by heritage diesel locomotives rather than steam. We understand that for some visitors, nothing compares to the sight, sound and smell from a steam locomotive. And whenever it is safe and practical to do so, that is exactly what we aim to provide. However, the current wildfire risk across the Highlands means we have a responsibility to consider the wider impact of operating steam locomotives." The station explained that it resorted to speaking out after a staff member had faced disrespectful and intimidating behaviour from disgruntled tourists. It wrote, "Unfortunately, some of our team members have recently been subjected to disrespectful and intimidating behaviour over circumstances entirely beyond our control. Our staff and volunteers are simply carrying out decisions made in the interests of public safety. We'd like to thank the vast majority of our passengers for showing understanding during this challenging period." The tourists have been turning up and just going mental, the staff, because they're not running the steam locomotives. They're expecting to come and see, just like the Traitors, or, I'm sure it must be a similar station to the one in Harry Potter. Like, it's definitely the same bridge kind of thing they use as well. So, outrage that this isn't happening.
I mean, it is a sort of really modern thing to just blame the first person that you see who's involved in the thing that has disappointed you. You know what I mean? I always think to myself, well, what are they hoping is going to happen here? Are they hoping that if they give this poor train worker a hard enough time, the train worker's suddenly going to magically put on a train service for them just because they've shouted at them for a while?
I think that is what they're hoping, because the only other explanation is that they're taking their anger and upset out on this person to make themselves feel better and to make this other person feel like shit. That's the only other explanation. Yeah. So I guess, is that the way you want to live your life? Then okay, great. Then you're obviously hoping that someone magically puts this on for you.
I mean, one of the things that I used to really enjoy about working in the restaurants was sort of standing my ground when somebody was being an absolute arse. Yeah. I remember somebody who had ran the restaurant before me had signed the restaurant up for this sort of Royal Bank of Scotland card discount thing, and we stopped it because it wasn't worth doing. But occasionally people would come in and they would say, "Oh, I've got the," and I would say, "Oh yeah, we don't accept that discount anymore," and they would get really, really pissed off. And I was like, I say, well, we don't accept it. You know what I mean? We haven't accepted it for months. It's just, that's the only reason that we came. I'm like, well, should have checked before you came.
Would you check? I mean, I guess you would now because you've done that before. But would you check?
I mean,
I'm not taking their side. I'm on your side.
I mean, if it was like a 10% discount, right?
So, all right, Mr. Moneybags. I mean, Jesus.
Come on, this is like 26 years ago or something. So say
this is Aberdeen you're talking about.
Say they bring their boyfriend or girlfriend to the restaurant, or husband or wife, and this, probably a main course then was about 10 quid. So say 20 quid for dinner and maybe another 5 or 6 quid for drinks. They're literally like giving me shit over a £2.60 discount. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, it's 10%. So like, if I went in and I said, "Oh, I've got this card," we don't accept it anymore. I'm not going to start fucking steaming over not being able to save a couple of pounds. If it was like a 40% discount, I'd be like, but I'd probably be more angry. I'd probably be more annoyed at myself for not checking first than I would be because it's at the person telling me that I couldn't use it. You know what I mean? You
wouldn't want to get angry and impress your date that you're standing up over £2.60, causing a scene.
I know. And the thing was, it was usually guys, right? It was rarely a woman. Rarely a woman,
It's never. It's always men.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, never mind. Well, we shall see what happens at the train station. Probably fuck all, I'd imagine, but never mind. What else have you seen this week, buddy?
Well, this headline, I think it really sort of underpins what we consider to be important in Scotland. You know what I mean? Okay. So if you think about sort of Scottish modern history, a lot of socialist principles, working class, cultural preservation, all that kind of thing. So I'm going to read you this headline. Are you ready?
Okay.
So you have to think about the words used here. Scots panic. Like Scots, as in the Scottish people, panic. That the iconic Boaby Woods could vanish from the M74, but there may be hope.
Oh, thank God. I've been so worried about this.
It's such an evocative headline. You know what I mean? Man comes in from his work, he's pacing, his hand on his head, his wife's like, What's happened? What's the matter? I just read. They're going to cut down the Boaby Woods.
No, the Boaby Woods. Boaby Woods. It's a boy that drinks in the Three Lumps. Boaby Woods. Ken Boaby Woods.
It was a good keeper on his day. Boaby Woods. Get the MP on the phone. So the small forest with an eyebrow-raising name, which I can promise you that forest's name is not called the Boaby Woods. An eyebrow-raising name is one of the first sights Scots see when they're driving back up the road from England. So a beloved Scots landmark hailed a national treasure, not by the Heritage Society, by the way, has been visible from the M74 for many years, maybe on its way out, and it's safe to say that everyone is devastated about it.
Everyone. I'm devastated.
Panic set in after a local shared a snap of the famous group of trees arranged in a T-shaped form, which are well known as the Boaby Woods, because it looks, for overseas listeners, it looks like a dick and balls. Affectionately dubbed the Cock of the North. The small forest is one of the first sights Scots see when driving back from England along the northbound carriageway of the M74, with many using it as a landmark to recognise that they are almost home. The forest can even be found on Apple Maps under a series of hilarious nicknames relating to its questionable shape. Facebook user Mark Brodie captioned his post, "I honestly cannot believe it. Our beloved Cockwoods, Penis Woods, or whatever you call it, is being harvested. One of the first iconic landmarks by driving into bonny Scotland is going to be no more. Sad times, my brethren." Someone replied under the post, "No! How am I going to know that I'm an hour and 43 minutes from home now?" The post has sparked a reaction from many Scots who took to Reddit to express their sadness to see it go. In a thread titled, "Chopping down the Willie Woods?" one user wrote, "Disaster. It's my favourite view in the M74. Another joked that the forest was just undergoing a circumcision." Very good. Very good there. Very good.
Very good.
Someone else penned, "This is a national treasure. How can this be allowed?" On Google Maps, right? I'm going to read you the names. From the top, right? There's like 5 names. There's the Treenus, which I like. There's Boaby Wood, Bell End, Boaby-shaped forest, or my absolute favourite, the Stoner on the Hill.
The Stoner on the Hill. That's fantastic. That's wonderful.
A fourth Scot shared, "Driving on the M74 last week, my son said, 'Look, Mum, trees in the shape of a letter T.' I mean, he's not wrong. However, it seems that hope may not be lost, as one Reddit user reassured that the trees will be replanted and Scotland will not lose this sacred landmark. They explained, "It was suffering from wind damage and blowing over. It will get replanted after the felling. It was planted as a productive forestry a couple of 100 years ago, and it has been felled and replanted 3 times already. This is just another cycle of the lifespan of the trees as they reach their terminal height, or their full tumosity." Another reassured, "These are timber plantation trees. They were always meant to be felled once they reach the maximum height. They will be replanted. Hopefully they're right, and the panic is over after all." Whew. So luckily we had a happy ending. We had a happy ending to the story about the Boaby Woods there.
Hey.
But I mean, when we lived in Barrow-in-Furness, and my dad would come and pick me up and bring me back up to Glasgow, it was, like, there was a few things that just made you feel good because you knew that that your journey was almost over. Obviously, crossing crossing the border and the big "Welcome to Scotland" sign, which is bigger than the one on the other side that says England. It doesn't even say "Welcome to England"; it just says England.
Yeah.
So that the Boaby Woods, although we never called it the Boaby Woods, it didn't occur to me until I was an adult that it looked like a doodle with a cock and balls. But that was definitely one that we would see, and I would be like, not too much longer to go now.
It's iconic, and it's going to be, it'd be a shame if it was taken away. It is like you say, it's one of those landmark things that when you're on the drive that you look out for and you spot and you know that, okay, it's this to go. It's like, you're driving from Aberdeen, Dundee or something, like, when you pass the Horn, okay, and then there's certain landmarks. But yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, the Boaby Woods.
Boaby Woods, the stoner on the hill. That's a belter.
Yeah,
anyway,
I love that.
It looks like there's still hope, so I'm sure it'll still be there. What's your next story this week?
My next story is, it's a nice story. We're going to celebrate something Scottish, Greg, and it's from the Scottish Sun this week. And the headline is, Taking the Biscuit. A family bakery famed for its morning rolls and Empire biscuits has overtaken Iron Brew to become Scotland's most popular brand, Greg. The Glaswegian company's offerings topped a list as most chosen food and drink products in the country for 2026. This is McGee's, who beat Stirlingshire-based dairy company Graham's to top spot. So while Iron Brew, known as Scotland's other national drink, dropped from first place last year to third. I guess Scotland's getting a bit healthier, behind Graham's, which is dairy. So I think it's cheating slightly. They're basically putting it behind milk. Now, McGee's, I presume, make bread as well and stuff. So basically, Iron Brew is third behind bread and milk, which would be the two essentials. I wonder if this is an article that has been published in the guise of an advert for McGee's. But let's just read on and find out. Maybe I should have read this more carefully before selecting. We've been down this route before with McDonald's. Hey, as a funny thing about McDonald's, I'll come back to that. Let's get through this McGee's advert. McGee's was born in the Maryhill area of Glasgow in 1936 when founder Dougaled. You don't get a lot of Dougalds nowadays, do you? McGee started baking bread for his neighbours. The fourth generation family-owned business, which is known for its tatty scones and caramel shortcake, has enjoyed a surge in popularity in recent years after expanding beyond its west of Scotland heartland to become a household name across the country. Almost half of Scottish households, Greg, 49.5%, now buy McGee's products, with continued growth across favourites including rolls and small cakes. This is just an advert for McGee's. Iconic biscuit maker Tunnock and butcher Simon Howie made up the top 5 in the rankings of Scotland's most chosen brands. Leslie Ann Gray, Strategic Insight Director for Scotland at Work panel by Numerator. That's a fucking mouthful, Leslie Ann. I wonder what you tell people what you do for work. She said, Scotland's brand footprint shows national scale and local habit sitting side by side in the same basket. McGee's taking the top Scottish spot, Iron Brew's loyal base, Simon Howie reaching more than half of Scottish homes each year tells the same story from a different angle. Local brands win when they own the blah blah blah. So, bakery, bread and milk, I feel cheated now. Iron Brew, that's the top spot, really, isn't it?
Do you think Iron Brew fucked it by sort of prioritising their sugar-free and less sugar selection over and changing the recipe of their, because they took the sugar out of their normal recipe and they use like a sort of different type of sugar because of the tax.
Yeah,
because the sugar tax, right?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they did quite a good masterstroke by taking out the 1901.
Well, yeah.
Iron Brew. I think that was, they turned a possible disaster. They had to do it with a sugar tax. There was no way around it, really. They had to do it. So either that or, make it more expensive. So they've had their hands tied, and then because of the outrage, they've said, all right, you want it? Here you go. But it's more expensive, but you can have it, and yeah, everyone's happy. So no, I don't know.
It's maybe a wee bit. Just thinking about it, I'm sure you'll know from your career in marketing, but the whole kind of new Coke disaster for Coca-Cola in the 1980s, and then they kind of brought out the kind of classic Coke Classic, which is just the same Coke that everybody had been drinking for generations. And quietly just let new Coke sort of disappear. And Iron Brew they've sort of done a version of that with a 1901 recipe, right? Yeah. Because, the 1901, whether this is a placebo or whether it is fact, but the 1901 recipe Iron Brew out of a glass bottle tastes like I remember Iron Brew tasting when I was a kid. Yeah. But as I say, I don't know if I'm just a victim of clever marketing and it doesn't take. It's just it's convinced me that it does.
It could be,
but
yeah.
Either way, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's highly probable that, your brain, your taste receptors are just making you think that it tastes the same, and it probably does. But yeah, I don't know. I think it is. They've done well on the back of what happened with it, but we'll see. But yeah, I think McGee's being number one is, a bit of a shocker. Yeah, it was very strange. I was listening to a podcast just this week, and it was the words that I never thought would leave my mouth on the Culture Swally. I was listening to Richard Bacon interview Dexter Fletcher, and he was asking about the McDonald's gig, and he's like, you've been the voice of McDonald's for how long? And he's like, about 20 years now. And he's like, it must be a good gig. And he's like, yeah, it is. Like, it allows me to do other projects and stuff. It's great. I'm watching TV literally the next night, and a McDonald's advert comes on. And I'm like, that's not Dexter Fletcher doing the voiceover. In the newspaper the next day, Dexter Fletcher has been replaced as the voice of McDonald's. And I'm like, that's so fucking weird. Now, the podcast was like a few weeks old I was listening to. Right. But it wasn't like he'd said anything. It must have just bad timing. I was like, wow, that's weird. I quite liked. Yeah, it was nice. Always nice hearing Dexter Fletcher on the McDonald's. Anyway, so there you go. McGee's, Graham's Milk, Tunnocks, Simon Howie, and Iron Brew. Top 5 most bought Scottish brands.
I think McGee's are big in Scotland, right? Because they do. I think I'm pretty sure they've got a big bakery in Bells Hill, just sort of outside Glasgow. I mean,
they're in all the supermarkets, like, so it's it's the tatty scones and Empire biscuits that are racking up all the pre-packed ones that just people are just impulse buying and purchasing. That's what's racking that up. And the milk is obvious. So put Iron Brew in third. I don't know where Tennant's is. Tennant's must have been close up, and maybe McEwan's Export. Don't know.
You never see McEwan's Export anymore. No. We spoke about that before, didn't we? I mean, when I first started working in pubs in the kind of mid-90s, and not only working in pubs, but going to pubs as a customer a lot more. McEwan's was in all the bars. Like draft McEwan's, that is. Yeah. And it was usually, it would be lager and export. And if it wasn't McEwan's Export, it'd be Tartan Export. But I never see Export just in a pub. Unless you go to like a pub like maybe like the Prince of Wales in Aberdeen or something, like a pub that's sort of famed for having a big selection of beers. But just like a regular pub, it's usually Tennant's and then maybe Belhaven. Belhaven Best is sort of taken McEwan's Export's place on the bars of Scotland, I think.
Yeah, you're right. I would say so. Yeah, you're definitely right there. I know it's not something you see, and it's funny when you do notice it because it stands out so much. Like I remember earlier in the year when we did Loch Ness, available wherever you get your podcasts, and you see Ted Danson smashing cans of McEwan's on the train. And then it stood out on our last episode where we did Postmortem starring Charlie Sheen, available wherever you get your podcasts, when his flat is a bit disarrayed to show that he's a hard drinking cop and he's got his Glenfiddich and he has Glenfiddich. And there is there's a couple of cans of Export on his table. And I was like, all right, he's really been getting into the spirit of things whilst he's in town. He's fucking drinking McEwan's Export. He's usually drinking Bud Light, but he's gone straight for the McEwan's Export. That's a man of taste. Never mind. Okay, right. Have you seen anything else this week, buddy?
No, not any big stories. Just to say that there's we haven't covered it in the Culture Swally yet, but last year on Netflix, a series called Department Q was streamed, set in Edinburgh, a cold case series. It was very, very good, I have to say. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The second series is in production right now, and one of the locations that they're filming in is the famous, but closed for a long time at this stage, but the famous Bonaccord Baths in Aberdeen, which when we spoke about it before, we suspect that it's probably being used as the lair of a baddie. But the kind of good news about it is the article I read. They're hopeful that the money that they'll receive, Aberdeen City Council, for allowing the production to be filmed there might be enough to reopen the baths, because currently, according to our mutual friend who lives in Aberdeen, the closest pool is in Dundee to Aberdeen at this stage. It's crazy, right? Because they've shut down. I can't
believe that.
I can't believe it. They've shut down the Beach Leisure Centre, and the Bonaccord Bath's been shut for a long time. In fact, they've knocked down the Beach Leisure Centre. It's been demolished even. So, I think there is a pool. Well, they said when I lived in Maud, there was a pool in Peterhead that would sometimes go through to. I don't know if there's one in Fraserburgh. But you don't want to go all the way to Peterhead to go for a swim if you live in Aberdeen. You know what I mean? And the sea's too cold almost all year. So
yeah, I wonder. Obviously, we were speaking before and we'd said it could be like the layer. I just had a thought now. I was like, I wonder if it would make the perfect setting. Like if they went to like another, it would have to be England or Wales, like police department, and they have like a Department Q, but their office is like in the swimming pool. Do you know what I mean? Because how like Department Q's office is like in the toilet downstairs. It would be quite, I don't know. That was just a thought. You know something, it's a show I would love to do on the pod, because I would love to speak to you about it. What puts me off is I enjoyed it so much, but it's like 9 or 10 episodes, and they're all like a good hour. And I'm like, that's a hard slog watching it for the podcast, but probably will watch the first series again before the second series comes out. So maybe that might be a time to do some notes. Although will I don't know. It's 10 hours. It's a long time.
10 hours.
But
I've had the same thought. Yeah. Every second episode, I'm like, fucking hell, I hope Nicky doesn't pick Department Q. I don't have time to.
No, that would either be, I would need to check beforehand with you, or that would be a January episode that we've got like 3-4 weeks to do. Yeah. So maybe that could be, maybe in January we'll do Department Q. We'll see. It depends whose pick it is. Wonderful. Okay, right. Well, before we get on to talk about what we're talking about today, let's have a little word from our sponsors. I'll have to put a McEwen's export ad in now.
The singer today have a new kind of sound. It's a sound that I don't want to hear. Just give me a chorus of my favorite tune of McEwen's, the best to buy in a beer. Oh, McEwen's is the best to buy, the best to buy, the best to buy. McEwen's is the best to buy, the best to buy in beer. Aye, McEwen's.
A beer that's still worth singing about.
Okay, Greg, so it was your choice on this episode of the pod. So why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
So this week I have dived into the rich well that is the BBC's Play for Today archive from the 1970s and early 1980s. We've done quite a few before. We've done, we did The Good Time Girls not too long ago, which was a Play for Today. We've done all of Peter McDougall's, Just Another Saturday, Just a Boys Game, Elephant Graveyard, and Just Your Luck. And I found one which I didn't know about. I fancied watching a Play for Today for the pod, and I thought, right, I'll Google Scottish episodes of Play for Today, and I found this one, and it's called The Bevellers, from 1974, written by and also starring the late actor and playwright Roddy McMillan. 16-year-old Norrie Beaton begins his first day in a Glasgow glass factory, learning from the ground up, but a series of increasingly violent confrontations lead him to question his future in the trade. So, as I said a minute ago, I had never heard of this. When I saw Roddy McMillan, I thought, he's a sort of well-kent face, Roddy McMillan. You know what I mean? Although he did pass away quite a long time ago, but he did stuff like The Vital Spark and Dr. Finley's Casebook and The Maggie and stuff like that. There are a few other better-known actors in this. Paul Young, a young Paul Young who manages to be young and still look old, which is quite amazing. And Jackie Farrell, who for many years played Jockey in Take the High Road, and I think he's also in the first ever Taggart Killer. So he's having he rides a motorbike and he's having like an affair with some woman where he takes her into this like pigeon coop or something for a winch. And Andrew Byatt, who again is a well-kent face, but you know, he's been a sort of working actor who's popped up in a lot of things, and Bill Armour, who plays the Rouger, who looks a bit like Stephen McCall with blonde hair. I think a little bit.
I had another look-alike stroke act-alike, but I can come on to that later. Well, no, I can say now, actually. He reminded me at some points a little bit of Maurice Roves.
Yeah, he does,
who, incidentally, Jan Wilson was married to. So, yeah, a little bit of...
funny old world. Yeah. So, like I say, I'd never heard of this. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I sort of set out kind of comparing in my mind. I thought, well, I'm going to be like looking for traces of kind of Peter McDougall's style and stuff in it, and it's not really. You know, I think one of the things that really stuck out to me, because I thought, you know, in Peter McDougall's plays, he gives quite a few of his characters, his central characters, a lot of monologues. You know, there's a wee bit of that in here, but they're not sort of overbearing. You know, I think the closest one is when the Rouger's dad comes in, but even then, he's not. It's not like a lot of sort of chest beating kind of proclamations or anything. You know, it feels very true to life. And I think, you know, like I know that Roddy McMillan drew on his own experiences as an apprentice beveller before he went into the theatre and acting to write the play. You know, I don't know if it's autobiographical as such, but I think certainly the detail when Bob's Roddy McMillan's character is describing some of the processes of beveling. I mean, it's, you know, this is a guy that knows what he's talking about here.
Yeah, he knows exactly. And yes, I did read it. It was very autobiographical in terms of the content of this. But I was laughing earlier because you did exactly what I sometimes, or have done in the past, and it is, I quite fancy a play for today. Scottish play for today's, and then see what comes up. I think that's how I ended up with the silly season. And then I think I ended up with the Good Time Girls on the back of the silly season. It must have been something that. First time watch, I'd never really heard of it either, and I absolutely loved it as well. It really did just give me a really nice... I would say, you're looking for some sort of Peter McDougall vibe initially, but I think it's difficult because of the setting. It's immediately Slab Boys that you're thinking of, and I think it does lend a lot to Slab Boys in a slight way. It's more of the environment and the authority figure, the fast-paced talking, the different characters, people coming in and out, you're joining different people at different times and getting everyone's story. And then, of course, you could say, you know, the scene with like Nancy and Rouger, there is a similar scene in Slab Boys with I've blanked now, but you know, there is a male and a female alone in the slab room with you know a similar kind of scene, like a romantic or will they won't they type thing. It's a really nice, it's a play and it's a very nice play, but there's a real nasty edge to this as well. Yeah. Which I did, you know, I feel bad saying I like, but I did, you know, it needed that, I think. And especially when Norrie's alone or being bullied by the other men. And that's, I think, a great device that they have with Bob. And Bob, you know, is so proud of his beveling, and he's telling everyone, you know, how it's an art form and stuff. And everyone has a job there. But Bob's constantly getting called up to the office, and it's a wonderful device to leave Norrie on his own with the boys. Yeah. And they're a bunch of fucking cunts in that place. Peter's all right, but the rest of them are a bunch of fucking arseholes.
Yeah, they are. And Norrie's he's an interesting character because he sort of comes in. Leslie, the manager, says, "Oh, he looks like a smart young boy and all this. And, you know, Norrie seems to think that he can do anything. You know, like he doesn't have to become an apprentice beveller.
Yeah.
He could go, you know, and sometimes he sort of says how he'd like to get out of Glasgow, and, you know, when the cadets are off to their camp, he said he's like, I'd wish I could be with them. And,
Yeah.
you know, so he's, you know, whereas, my understanding of, I think especially when this is set in the 70s, I mean, this is like the sort of the days of being guaranteed a job when you walk out the school gates were starting to come to an end. You know, I think by the time by the end of the decade, it wasn't guaranteed that you would go into a trade when you left school if you weren't clever enough or wealthy enough to go to university. So it's quite interesting that he still seems to think that, well, if I don't like this, I'll go and do something else. You know, and then you've got Bob, who is the time-served veteran beveller, who's really proud of the trade and his craft. And, you know, he mentions that there's not many workshops left in Glasgow like that one, you know. It kind of alludes to the fact that it's becoming a bit of a dying art. It's interesting, Norrie, but I think it's more interesting just how sort of nasty to him, especially the Rouger is. But then there's moments when the Rouger's fine, you know, like he's pretty horrible to Peter. Yeah. But when Peter has his fit, he helps him, you know what I mean? And he looks after him and stuff. And, you know, it's kind of like the characters they're all quite layered. So they're not not kind of one dimensional. It'd been easy just for the Rouger just to be a complete arsehole throughout the whole thing, which he almost is. But you still see that he knows what he's doing in the workshop. You know what I mean? He's a tradesman.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a lot to go over there. I mean, first of all, Norrie, I had to laugh, his name, Norman Beaton. And I was like, Norman Beaton? That was fucking Desmond from Desmond's. And he's a character that, he annoyed me throughout this, because you're right, he does have kind of ideas above his station. He thinks he's too good to be down there. And he's, I might jack it in. He keeps saying that. I might not stick with it. And you're like, fuck, man, you're lucky. You know, you've been offered this position. And very much ideas above his station. He's always just bunking off. He's fucking obsessed with that bit of newspaper. I mean, I would have set fire to it. I mean, I didn't do something similar, but I did have it was when I first worked in an office. It was, I won't mention the name of the company, but it was in Dubai. It was my first job out there. And I worked in the creative studio, the account handlers, and we had a stereo, and you used to just put on your music. And one woman brought in this CD, and it was called Acoustic Africa, and it's as bad as it sounds. And every day in the afternoon, she'd be like, oh, let's put on Acoustic Africa. And I'd have to sit there and listen to this fucking shite. So one morning I was in first, and I grabbed the Acoustic Africa CD. Now, I'm not a bastard. I didn't throw it away. I didn't break it. What I did was I slid it underneath one of the speakers. So it was around the stereo, but it's been lost. And come on the afternoon, let's put on, I can't find the Acoustic Africa CD. Oh no, what will we do? It was found like 6 months later when it was cleaned. Brilliant. Right. I would have set fire to Norrie's paper. He was a right annoying little bastard. I did like exactly as you've explained though, the beveling. Now, Bob's really proud of the beveling. And it might sound like I'm taking a piss, but it's an art form, and it really is. Like, and I think it's a dying art form. Like, my uncle was an ironmonger, and he used to make gates and stuff, and I know how much work used to go into that.
Yeah.
But, now it's probably 3D printed in Latvia or something. And, that's Farage lovers can cry about the demise of British steel and stuff, great Judas Priest album. But it's art like this and trades is all just dying out. And it's a shame. And Bob, even in this, in 74, Bob seems like the last bastion of this. Yeah. Like it's already a dying art in this play. And it's sad to think, wow, this is 42 years ago.
Well, no,
52 years ago.
52 years ago. Because my dad was a tradesman. He was a painter and decorator to trades, but he could turn his hand to a bit of joinery and a bit of plumbing. My grandfather was an upholsterer to trade, so he would he covered he covered sofas and made curtains and fitted carpets and all that kind of thing. And watching this back, it kind of made me think about them, but it also made me think, fucking hell, like, it would be good to have a trade, you know?
Yeah.
Like, like, but then I suppose working in there and you're going in and you're doing the same thing every day for sort of 8 hours. You know, you start at the same time, you have your morning tea at the same time, you have your lunch at the same time, you have your afternoon tea at the same time, the whistle blows at the same time, then you pick up your wages on a Friday. It's, you know, I can see how for some people, and, you know, it would become a bit monotonous if people, you know, if people sort of, they kind of crave a bit of variety in their life. And I kind of get the feeling with Norrie, you get the sense that because he's lost his mother, his father is maybe kind of coddling him a wee bit, because he says, "Oh, my dad said if I don't like it, I can just try something else," you know. And you kind of get the feeling that his dad really feels a bit sorry for him because his mum's away.
I mean, there has to be an element to that, obviously, that, you know, he's lost his mum, and I didn't get, like, the guys seem obsessed with the fact that he's lost his mum. So now I couldn't quite pick up. So obviously she's died of a heart attack. Now, a couple of years before, something's happened in the middle of the night. Now, he's had to run to get the doctor. Now, I wasn't sure if she'd had a miscarriage or like an abortion, because that's mentioned, or if her and Mr. Norrie were just having a really fucking vigorous session. Because the way it's mentioned, 2 o'clock in the morning, screaming, you know, she calmed down once the doctor arrived. I'm like, did I miss something there?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't. I kind of took it as, you know, she's had sort of chronic health problems, and they've kind of finally overtaken her. And the Rouger is obviously of the type of guy just will find something and just needle to see, you know, to kind of see how much you can take. Yeah, you know, right, you know, how far can I push this young kid until I get a reaction from him. Then the thing is, he doesn't have to push Norrie very hard at all. No. But because Norrie becomes quite emotional and starts in, and but the Rouger just kind of needles and needles and needles, and you think, well, you know, there's when they talk about his dad, Alex Freer, and what he was like when the Rouger's supposed to have been young, and then how the sort of tables have turned towards the end of Alex's time in the workshop. The Rouger starts kind of bullying his dad because he's a grown man now, whereas when he was a kid, maybe he's the way he is because of the way that he was treated by his father. But then when we meet Alex, when he comes into the workshop looking for a tap off Bob or anybody, and it's just Norrie there. I think the actor who plays him is called Leonard Maguire. I think that performance, he's only on the screen for about 10 minutes. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's amazing. I've seen guys like, you used to see guys like that in Glasgow when I was young, who just lived between opening hours. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just, you don't see them as much anymore, but he certainly used to. And he just kind of sort of personifies that, but he's really aware of his own tragedy and his own failings. You know what I mean? And he doesn't blame anybody for it. Doesn't blame the job. He doesn't blame anybody but himself for being the state that he's in. And you think, you know, does he harbour any regret about his relationship with his son? Because when the Rouger finds out that he's been in, he's quite concerned. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's like, well, he was here, you know? I
mean, that's the thing, because Alec is a wonderful character that's in there, and it's wonderful that it's just Norrie he appears to. I mean, the whole play is Norrie, I guess, trying to decide what he's wanting to do. And at the moment, he's seeing, okay, I could probably be like Rouger or Charlie, you know, that's probably the role I'm going to adapt into. But then eventually I will become like a Bob or a Peter, which is someone that is just there all the time. That's their job. They live for a fly pint and a wee bet. Then you meet Alec and you're like, oh, it's like the ghost of Christmas past or something. Yeah, it's like, you know, this is what the Bevellers ghost, exactly. And he tells Norrie it'll end him. Go and get a job with a van. Go outside, and that's, you know, I think one of the things that you know, kind of makes him want to leave. Yeah, because
the suggestion is that they're inhaling a lot of glass dust, right? Because they're grinding, they're kind of smoothing out the edges and everything. Yeah. So he is the sort of ghost of the Beveller. Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Really,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. No, he really is. And I think it's very, the line that he delivers that is so insightful when he says he's looking for the boys, and he says that Bob and Peter are good to him, but the young ones are different. And it's such a sad demise of here's this guy who's fucking spent all his days knocking his pan in, beveling, and these young upstarts, one of which is his son, who've basically, bullied him out, and he's forced, because of the conditions, he's forced that his only kick is getting wine. And I think it's a wonderful element that when Norrie offers him the $1, like, he doesn't like protest or say, son, I can't take your money. He's like, well, I was going to tap you when I came in, but I didn't think you would have anything, so I'll take it. Cheers. Like, it's such a refreshing kind of brutal honesty of what would happen, not like any fake faux, son, I can't take it, it's your first day, you spend it on a Matchbox car or something. It's, yes, I'll take your $1, I'm off to the pub, see you, loser, cheerio.
With $1, Benny, you stay.
You mean you would give us $1?
Aye.
Give us it. Not on Sunday. You couldn't give us that. I was going to tap you there a wee while ago, but I mean, you're just a young boy. And, oh.
Well, I kind of took it as he was going to tap him, but I saw how young he was, and he's gonna take his money, but he feels fucking ashamed of himself. Yeah, but he has to take it because he's an alcoholic.
But it's the alcoholic drunken shame. Yeah. It's not really a shame. It's a full shame of, I feel a bit bad, but this will all be forgotten about when that fucking first sip of wine hits my lips. Then it's all that is gone.
He even says it's not. It won't sustain him for very long, but it will sustain him. And the funny thing is, when Bob is talking about Alex early on in the play with Peter and Norrie, I'm not even sure if he's still alive.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing. Yeah,
because no one's seen him for a long time, and and they're not sure whether he's still living.
Yeah, no, it's wonderfully done, and it's a great character, and it's a great way to give Norrie a little insight into things and sort of see behind the curtain, because at the moment all he's seen is he's not having a great time. He's stuck doing it's his first day, but he's stuck doing a shit job. And he even, speaks back to Bob, is this all I'm going to be doing, dabbing the brush? I mean, it's quite erotic, isn't it, really? He's just dabbing the brush as Bob waits and occasionally gets squirted in the face if Norrie gets too excited and does it too fast. It's and then you have, obviously, that's his morning, learning about Peter's epilepsy, which I guess is the Chekhov's gun of the play, if that's going to come back later on. And, he takes a turn now and again, and you feel sorry for him. And he's got the two upstarts of Charlie and Ruger, who fucking hate each other. But I do like the element that, like, Ruger knows that Charlie could fucking knock fuck out of him, but he needles him just enough. He knows that he'll never hit him, or he'll push him to the point of just before, and then he'll run away or run off on his bike with his fucking bent little hat that looks like such an arse. That hat. But that's what Norrie's had up till then. And of course, Joe, who seems all right to begin with, but then quickly takes the side of the others and is like, fuck it, I'm going to bully the little cunt because, let's just get on with it. You're like, oh, Joe, you dick. And that's all Norrie's had exposure to. So then for this ghost effectively to come in and say to him, like, jack it in, son, go and get a van, fuck off. No wonder he's like, I've had enough of this.
Well, Joe has been the apprentice before Norrie, right? So he's done all the apprentice jobs, and now he's finally a Beveller proper, I suppose. But he resents Norrie quite quickly, because I think it starts when Bob gives him half of the gives him the 50p for running down to collect his line from the bookies, There's a wee bit of jealousy there, and there's even the scene when Norrie offers him out, and Bob he kind of shrinks back a bit, doesn't he? Because he's like, I'm not sure about this young fella. But the thing is, like, the thing about Jackie Farrell, so I've seen Jackie Farrell in a lot of things, right? And, the things that I've seen him in, the first thing I saw him in was as Jockey in Take the High Road, right?
Yeah.
I think he played Joseph McFadden's character's dad in Take the High Road.
Yeah, he did.
And he was never great.
No.
But he's good in this, I think, because he doesn't have as many lines as everyone else, Charlie.
No.
Like a lot of the time it's so weird that he's brought weights into work, and every now and again it's just so weird that he does that. Like, and it's tolerated. But I guess that I'd be shocked if it wasn't based on he's not based on an actual guy that Roddy McMillan knew when he worked in the Bevellers shop, So, the relationship with him and the Rouger, like the Rouger's, there's a bit of jealousy, I think, on the Rouger's part. The fact that, Charlie's in this relationship with Nancy, and the Rouger just wants to get one over on him all the time.
Well, that's it, because that's the thing. The Rouger, he does just want to really get at Charlie and get under his skin. But then, is it because, and I think he knows he could never beat him up. So, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a go on Nancy, his girlfriend, or who he'd like to have his girlfriend. Now, when Norrie sees them and runs off, and Rouger says to him that he threatens Norrie.
I know what you're
and
going to ask
says,
me here.
you'll get some of what she didn't get. Like, was he threatening to bum Norrie?
That's what I thought.
Like,
You knee-crepe swatching little snotter. I'll cut the bloody scrotum off you. I'll eviscerate you. You whoop-spun bastrified conscrapulated young prick. I'll do 20 years for mincing you. I had her. Right there, I had a spread eagle waiting for the knife and you blew it. Another minute, I scored where Charlie never scored and you shankered it, you parish-eyed, perishing bastard. Well, what she never got, you'll get. Come down. Come down here, I'm telling you!
And then there's an earlier bit when the Rouger and Peter are arguing, and Peter calls him a sodomistic schoolboy get.
yes. Now, is the Rouger in love with Charlie? But he knows he could never have him. And that's why he teases him. It's all this sort of simmering, bubbling, repressed homosexuality. And that's why he's threatening to have his way with Nancy. And then that's why he threatens to bum Norrie when he catches him. It's all very strange. I just couldn't work out what was going on here.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a bit of an odd thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if like the Rouger was planning to have sex with Nancy and then beat her up. I have no idea.
No idea. But yeah, I would agree with you. You're right. In terms of Jackie Farrell, he's so familiar because he played, Joe McDonald in Take the High Road for so many years. He was in Govan Ghost Story that we covered, and of course he plays Willie Reed in Still Game. So in the episode Kill Willie. But yeah, he's not the best actor, but his character is great in this. And it's needed as
brilliant,
kind of a little playoff. And he's so angry. Like when Nancy doesn't turn up and he's been waiting 45 minutes, he's fucking furious. Like he needs to get laid. He's just this ball of testosterone and anger.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you have to wonder, Norrie, what when he sees Nancy and the Rouger getting down to it on the straw, I would slink into the darkness. I wouldn't want to watch, and I certainly wouldn't want them to know I was there. I'll just stay here until it's all over, and then just appear later.
You've got to think somebody else is going to be coming in a few minutes. You know what'll be funnier if someone else catches them at it, in the middle of it, and then I'll just hide up here and it'll be funny and I'll see all the fallout rather than, he was just wanting to get in a better position so you could have a little hand shandy, I think.
One thing I liked about this is some of the one-liners. So there's, I'm just going to read a few of my favourites. There's too much shagging the dog in here. That's an expression that is died, I think. In the name of the lantern is a good one. There's no much wrong way. They say that a lot. Bob says that a lot. Oh, there's no much wrong way a boy that wants to learn how to bevel. A whore on a hard day. What was the other one? The rocky road to Port Dundas. That made me laugh as well. But Peter's insults for the Rouger, apart from when he calls him a sodomistic schoolboy get, he also calls him a big long-distance sod.
John Grieve has a wonderful, eloquent way with his words. And we last saw him quite recently as Dan Fairley in the Rabsy Nesbitt episode Fitbat. Wonderful character, Peter. He's got some great lines, as some of you just delivered. When they come back from lunch, he says, I need to go and drap the tatties, and then walks off to the toilet. But he's very quick. So I don't know if he was very quick there. But yeah, there's some brilliant one-liners in there as well. You know, you're not at school now, you're with the big men outside. I think my my absolute favourite is from the Rouger, actually. And it's when he's speaking to Nancy and he says, hang on just a couple of shakes and let me state my case. And it's just the way he delivers it. It's like poetry. It's beautiful.
He says, oh, well, the cat can look up the Queen's knickers.
Yes. He's desperate. And I'm just watching it going, yeah, I've probably used lines like that before in the past, like trying to... What can I say? And I did particularly like the training for what? Postle Park Olympics.
yeah. That's good. And away and put your bum in a frame and hang it out the window.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely brilliant, some of those lines. Yeah, I think you'd mentioned Andrew Byatt as Norrie. Now, he was in 5 Taggarts and a few Play for Today's. Most recently, he was in 3 episodes of The Bombing of Pan Am 103. Yeah. Now, there was about 2... was it 2 or 3? 2 Lockerbie shows around about the same time. I haven't watched either of them. You watched one, didn't you?
I watched this bombing. I didn't finish it.
Okay.
It was a bit slow.
I kind of like, I'm fascinated by the case, but there's a part of me it's like, I don't know if I want to watch that.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I would say is it's handled. I felt that because the bombing of the one that Andrew Byatt's in, it's the BBC, and I felt like they handled it. They handle things a lot more sensitively. The other one is just called Lockerbie, and it's got Colin Firth in it.
Oh yeah,
and it's predominantly the story of the minister. I can't remember his name, who lost his daughter on the flight. Quite famous. He's been at the forefront of it all ever since. I can't remember his name though, and Colin Firth plays him. But there's the thing that put me off it, because I remember the Lockerbie bombing quite well. I think I mentioned before, right? My dad and I were actually supposed to be driving from Barrow-in-Furness to Glasgow on the night that it happened, because I was supposed to be going up before Christmas. And so, you know, we ended up not going for whatever reason. I can't remember, my dad's car wasn't working or whatever, but potentially we could have been on the motorway at the time, and we weren't. So because of that, I took quite an interest in it when it happened. There's a scene in Lockerbie that it's sort of from the point of view of a passenger, like still strapped in their seat, falling to earth after
Jesus
the plane.
Christ.
After the plane explodes, and it's supposed to be a kind of like a nightmare that Colin Firth's character's having, I think, remember right. I just thought, I don't know if I'm into this, you know, it was just, I really felt like the BBC one was, you know, they didn't shy away from the detail, but I feel like they handled it a bit more sensitively. They didn't give as much time over. They don't give as much time over to the actual event as they do to the investigation and everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah, I haven't watched either of them. I just don't know. But I think, I probably would be drawn more to the BBC if it's a bit more sensitively handled. Norrie takes in his own flask in peace and he gets ridiculed for it. Now, it's his first day, and they all fuck off and leave him for lunch. Like, he's showing initiative, taking his lunch in, and also, it's his first day. Bob and Peter go to the pub. Like, surely, you want to come for a pint on your first day and we'll tell you the goss and then, you can stick in. But no, just sit and eat your fucking sandwich in the dark. They don't even fucking light on for him and wait for pissed Alec to come in and tap you. Yeah. If you're lucky, he won't touch you inappropriately.
Well, Charlie says an interesting thing, and I think it it kind of links to what's supposed to have happened to Alex from years of working in the shop. Because he says, I wouldn't eat my lunch in here, you know? And I was like, well, is that because, you know, there's all this glass dust in the air and everything? Is that the reason why they all go out rather than sit around? Or is it just to get out the workshop for an hour? Because the Rouger goes to get an inner tube for his bike.
Yeah.
And everyone else goes for a beer because Bob's won a few quid on an accumulator.
Yeah, I think it shows, and I like the work dynamic of the aspect, seeing everyone with their jobs. And in Joe, as you said, it was the apprentice, and when he gets asked to do a job, and it's to sieve sand, and he's like, I'm not doing that. I used to do that, and it just reminded me of. I always remember I've flashbacks sometimes to the shift I had at Daytona, and I remember I started off as a runner, like which is basically taking the food out, and I worked. I was only 17 and a half, and they were short staffed one night behind the bar, and I was like, yeah, I could do it. And so that was it. I became just behind the bar. One night they were short of running staff, and I remember standing at service bar and my boss Martin saying, look, we need a runner. There's too many bar staff. Can you do a running shift tonight? And I said no, because I didn't want to do it, because I'm like, that's beneath me now. I don't want to be a runner. I want to have fun on the bar. I said no. And he's like, no, I need you to do it. And I was like, well, what if I don't do it? And he's, well, you're sacked. And I went, well, I'm not doing it. And he went, well, you're sacked then. And then, of course, I've got to be like, fine, I'll do it. And I did it. I spent most of my time smoking fags downstairs, or pretending to wipe tables. But it was just the audacityness of me to be like, no, I'm not doing that. It's beneath me now. Like, fuck off. You're getting paid. Fucking do it. But it just, Joe doing that reminded me of that. You must have faced a few issues of that over the years, of staff not wanting to do something that's beneath them, or, you know. Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure I felt the same way myself when I was younger, having to bottle up, or all the jobs that I had to do before I was old enough to work in the bar. You having to go back and do them, you know what I mean? Like, especially in the summer, like the deposit bottles, like the Schweppes deposit bottles that we used to send back, like the tonics and ginger beers and stuff. But we never rinsed them because they would get boiled and cleaned in the back at the facility when they were refilled. So we just stick them out. We just take them outside. So of course in the summer you'd be fighting with a fucking cloud of wasps, because all these sticky and sugary bottles would be out there in their crates. But the thing is though, if I was Norrie and I found an old newspaper, I'd be set up for the day. You wouldn't get anything else. I'd be fucking every minute I'd be sitting reading that newspaper. That's right up my street. And then after they've burnt it, and Joe says, old newspapers are 10 a penny in here, because they get these old mirrors in to repair. Yeah. And I guess the practice was to put a bit of newspaper between the casing and the glass to keep it in place, you know? But yeah, I'd be fucking made up if I found something like that. I remember going up into the loft, our mutual friends, when he lived in Elmbank Terrace, because I had some bits and bobs up. I put a few bits and bobs of mine up there. And there was a load of old press and journals and even expresses up there, like a stack of them from like the 60s and 70s. And I remember sitting for about an hour just kind of flicking through them, like losing time.
Yeah, lovely. I also like the element of this. Like, we're about a quarter of the way into proceedings, and we first get word of the big job. And it slowly grows and grows throughout the play. And I love that there's this element. We know that it's going to grow to the big job. And you know something's going to go wrong with the big job, because this big job is, you know, the boss keeps saying, we need to start it today. It needs to be done. And it's passed off as it's some stupid mirror for some dance school or some, you know, some shite. But it's just wonderfully done. I love the tool of having that big job running throughout the show, and just, it's a lovely little element there that goes through.
There's an interesting prejudice that you definitely don't hear anymore in Glasgow, but it lasted a really long time. And it's early on in the play when the Rouger says that Norrie looks like a chuchter.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and he said he's got the kind of healing look about him. And it's because, like, after the kind of Highland clearances and the sort of end of that kind of way of life, a lot of people from the Highlands came down to Glasgow and Edinburgh looking for work. And a lot of them became policemen, like the guys, a lot of the men became policemen and stuff. Because like the Healands umbrella the bridge in Glasgow at Central Station. It's near that pub that we met my Uncle Donnie in that time, remember?
Oh, yeah.
We walked under it last time we were there, because I got rolling chips out the Blue Lagoon under there. But it was called the Hielanman's Umbrella because all the men from the Highlands, when they came down for work on the train, they would all shelter from the rain under there. Okay. So as much as their sort of long-lasting prejudice towards the Irish and Catholics in Glasgow, it overshadows the prejudice against these men from the Highlands, people from the Highlands that came into the city. And the thing is, the Highland clearances, I think, were, I don't know, maybe like the 18th century or something like that. So like 200 years later, the Rouge are still keeping that old prejudice alive.
Yeah, but he strikes me as exactly that type of person. That's the kind of thing. He's just anything that he can to latch on to see what's going to work. And it's exactly as we said. Funny, we had a call with our mutual friend last night, and we latched on to something about you, and you laughed and were like, "Why is it this?" And I was like, "Because it's just about throwing enough shit. Like you've reacted to that." That's on you. And that's what Rouger's doing. He's trying the Chukitor thing. It's not sticking. Oh, the dead mum. That's provoking something. That's what I'm going to focus on. And that's what he is, because he's just a bully. So he's just trying to find what he can use. And it's the same with obviously with Charlie. Like he takes the piss out of his weights, but I think he's secretly jealous. But Nancy's the thing he can really fucking needle him at. And he's just really drilling down into it. And he's a fucking cunt. But he's a great character, Rouger. He's
a great character. And that sort of an exchange that I liked is when Norrie's first doing the feeding up, and Bob's asking him a bit about himself and the stuff, and he's like, "Oh, is it so you can give your mum a few quid at the end of the week?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, are you going to keep it all to yourself?" Outraged. He's like, "No." He says, my mum's away and everything, and that sort of generational sympathy. Because like now, if you met like somebody Norrie's age and he said, "Oh yeah, my mum passed away like quite recently," you'd be like, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that." Blah, blah, blah. Whereas Bob is like, he's like awkward. And the only thing he can think to say is, "Your father's still living."
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing about, "Oh, it's a shame, young boy losing his mother, blah, blah, blah." It's just, because I guess, they all come from working class, hard lives, and someone's mother passing away when they're young is maybe not that unusual. Because of the way they had to live,
I mean, that's it. And his only real question is like, "Oh, she must have been young, your mother." "Oh, yeah, don't bring it up, leave it. You've left it, move on." But it is nice to see. And that's the thing. Bob's he's a lovely character and a nice guy. But it's funny the stress levels go up with the big job, and the apron is coming off every time the bell rings, and then it's just the apron's being left on, fuck it. And then it's, towards the end, he's like, fuck it, we're knocking off for the day. There's nothing we can do. He's had enough. And it's wonderful to see the character of Bob develop over the course of the play. Brilliantly done.
Him and Peter sort of make themselves scarce when it looks like the Rouger and Charlie are going to get into it after the Rougers baptised Norrie in the kind of murky water.
I know, poor Norrie.
Yeah, Bob's giving him a bollocking, and so like nobody decides to tell Charlie that Rouger's just tried to shag his girlfriend.
And it's wonderful the way that he just blurts it out as well. There's no fucking, "Charlie, Rouger tried to shag Nancy." Like, there's no just straight out with it.
"Charlie, Nancy was in here at dinner time, and the Rouger tried to shag her."
Then fucking Rouger lamps him because it's the second time he's had Nancy's name in his mouth that day.
Oh, Charlie lamps him, didn't he? Because he chooses to believe Rouger over Norrie, because Rouger's like, "It's only because I just dunked him and I've been slagging him all day. That's the only reason that he said it." And Charlie's like, "I believe you," and then fucking punches poor Norrie.
To be fair, Norrie's the one that did have Nancy's knickers in his back pocket just a few hours earlier. So who are you going to believe? It's wonderful. But there are a bunch of special gentlemen in the Beveling factory. You could say they're psychopaths. one of those wee special roads for riding your bike on. It's mentioned out there. Forgot about that. That was a very good line. I like that a lot. Very good.
A moment that I liked was when everybody's just, I guess, sort of in the zone and they're working away.
Yeah.
And Peter starts singing and they all join in. Everybody, even the Rouge, everyone's just singing, and it's like the only moment of sort of harmony throughout the day. The only person not singing is Norrie, but he's just sort of taking it all in, you know, while the men, I can't remember the song. It is something, Highland something, isn't it? I can't remember. It's an old Scottish song.
And it's wonderful, as you say, it shows that everyone's working together. It's unity, very much. And I know it's because of the musical element, but very much steamy vibes in that part of just the men all working and harmony. And I do love that element of it, that it shows everyone has a job. It's a process. If everyone works and sticks to that process and their job, then everything moves fluid and it's wonderful. And that's how the well-oiled machine works. And it was a wonderful insight into that and well needed. And really good. Yeah,
it was a really good part of the play. And then, you know, like Roddy McMillan, I mean, sadly, he passed away just a few years after this came out. I think he was in Hazel, that the police detective drama in the late 70s. But he's just, like I said at the beginning, he's got one of those faces, and I kind of get the sense that probably quite a hard living guy, you know, very much a kind of meat and two veg kind of diet, and you know, probably a couple of jams every night, 20 fags a day, you know, which I guess, you know, and he's a bit like Billy Connolly in a sense, although obviously nowhere near as successful, but, you know, he's come from industry and found his way into the arts after having a completely other life as a tradesman. You know, Connolly's the same, you know, had a completely different life working in the shipyards until he decided that he wanted to be a musician and change, you know, and when you see Billy Connolly at his, you know, when he's famous in the 1970s, you can't really imagine him being on the tools. But the thing with Roddy McMillan is you would see him in any workshop or shipyard or factory in Scotland. You could see that face, you know, working away. And it's great because it's a play he's written, and you know, he's written it for himself essentially, and you know, it's autobiographical, as you mentioned. It's elements of his youth, and you know, I'm sure every character in the play is based to some extent on people that he knew and worked with over the years. No, it's a great play, and it was funny because he seems so familiar, and going through his IMDb, it's like, wow, he's been in so much, you know, going back to a film from the 1950s, The Gorbals Story, and it's just incredible. It's such an extensive CV, all before he died in 1979, and it's wonderful that he wrote this and then that he was able to star in it. And Bob is just such a great character. And it's wonderful. I'd love to go back and maybe have a look at some of the stuff that he's been in before to see a bit more of him as an actor, because he was he was very good. I really enjoyed his performance in this. We can maybe do the Maggie at some point in the future. Yeah, I think so. I think it's on YouTube. It is on YouTube. So I had to be looked at the The other actor in this who, you know, and she's by no means particular to her, but Jan Wilson. So she's the only female character in this, and she has quite a pivotal scene, right? But then, you know, she's in Just a Boys Game a few years later. She hardly has a line, really. I mean, she's a character for sure, but you know, she's not on the screen very much. She doesn't have much to say. Then, you know, a few years later, she's in one of the early Taggers, and it's a critical part to the plot that she plays. And it's funny how this sort of happens with, you see actors from the 70s, like you might see somebody who is like the lead or the second lead in something, and then you'll see them in something else and they're essentially like a background character almost. Like, it happened with Gary Lewis in what was the one we did, the Ken Loach one, Aphon Kiss. Aphon Kiss, yes. So this is after he's been in Billy Elliot as Billy Elliot's dad, which is, you know, that's one of the lead roles. And then he's in, you know, he's one of the lead roles in My Name is Joe, and then he's just got this little sort of walk-on background part almost moving a piano.
But come on, he's the best part of Yvonne Kiss in terms of him and Dave Mackay and Raymond Mertz. The three of them, the gardening crew. If I think of Yvonne Kiss, they are the first thing I think of. Because just absolutely belting lines. What was it? Is the piano line at something? Take the weight, you fat fuck. Or something like that. It's just wonderful. But yeah, I know what you mean. Jan Wilson's great in this. Nice little performance. You say pivotal role. Really has the marking of the Rouger. Although she's, I think, attempted. I think she would have let him. Yeah, I mean, because she was wearing pants because she was out the window.
She was. Well, no, I think I don't think those were her knickers. I think that was her pals chiseling her. Yeah. But I think if she hadn't spotted young Norrie giving it the peeping Tom from the top of the loft or whatever he was supposed to be in, I think the Rouger would have got his Nat King.
Yeah. So if you'd gone through what Norrie went through on his first day, would you be back the next day for your second day at work?
I mean, I think I did think about this. Like if putting myself into Norrie's Doc Martens for the day, I think I probably would have been a bit less sensitive than Norrie. I obviously grew up in a culture where you were heavily slagged all the time, by cousins, uncles, grandparents. It was because it was just another way of showing affection to take the piss out of somebody. You know what I mean? It was never done in nastiness. So, and I guess I always sort of subconsciously knew that. So I think I could probably have stood up to it a bit better than Norrie. Yeah. And I wouldn't have questioned as much if Bob had said, this is what you need to do. I just had done it. When I was 16, there's no way that I would have questioned the foreman. Or is this all I'm doing? You know what I mean? Just brushing the wheel. Yeah. If he told me to do that, I'd fucking do it. I'm never going to stand up to an adult, especially a fucking working man. But I could take a slagging if I had to. It's to be expected. When I worked at the hospital in Mods, there was a guy called Hendry who was sort of the gardener and porter in the hospital in Mod, which was an old folks hospital. Most of what I did was, keeping the lawns trimmed and turning over the soil in the flower beds so they didn't get too dry and watering the plants and everything. But I'd have to take the lunch trolleys up with one of the nurses because it was 2 floors. Yeah. And so I'd have to help them take the lunch trolley up. But I would sit and eat my lunch with the nurses. Mm-hmm. And they slagged me rotten for those 2 weeks. And then on the morning after my 18th birthday, I had to do every second week I had to do a Saturday or a Sunday. And as you can probably imagine, the morning after my 18th birthday, I had an absolutely monumental hangover. And just as I was knocking off, I ended up having to help a nurse bring a poor old lady who'd passed away down to the mortuary. So it was my first encounter with a dead body, and being in the lift with them. But on my last day, they pushed me into one of the big baths because they had these big baths for with harnesses for sort of winching.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
The old lady, the old people that weren't very mobile in and out of the water. So they had to be quite deep. And I got called in there to change a light bulb or some false pretense. And I noticed that I went in there and I was like, oh, they've got the baths filled. There must be a way to bath one of the patients. And then 3 of the nurses shoved me into it. And I had to walk home absolutely fucking soaked through. But it's just a bit of fun. You know what I mean?
So you were naughty.
Yeah, I guess so. My mother thought it was absolutely hilarious when I came home and I told her what had happened.
She works in the healthcare industry. So
she definitely did. She did back then. Yeah.
Workplace bullying was obviously part of the course, so she was she was used to it. Sounds like.
But the thing is, I mean, I guess now people are in some ways in the case of Norrie, I mean, the Rouger goes. It's probably giving Norrie a christening in the tub thing is probably the the least bad thing that he did to him that day. You know, you don't slag somebody who just lost their mum, and you definitely don't slag their late mother either. And now there's, say, human resources and employment laws and stuff, and you can get into a lot of trouble for behaving like that, which is good, which is good. But there's nothing wrong with a little bit of gentle hazing, like when someone's new, as long as you're not nasty with it, And the thing is, those nurses would probably get in trouble now for shoving a 18-year-old, cover worker into a bath. But, it's character building.
Yeah, that's all it is, a bit of character building. And it's to show, and it's to have a laugh if, like, the next day you'll come in and talk about it. Yeah, I know, we did that, yeah. But yeah, I think Norrie was a little bit too sensitive. I agree with you. And I think I definitely would have stuck it out until the end of the week. And made,
he does stand up. He does stand up for himself more often than not, with the Rouger. He does stand up for himself. But, I think I really, really, really enjoyed this. There is, if anybody wants to watch it, there is a link to the archive. It's not like a dodgy site, that, is it?
No, it's the Internet Archive, I think. I don't know how, but if you Google the Bevellers Internet Archive, it comes up.
Yeah, so and I think all of the surviving plays for today, like I said, there are some that were lost, but all the surviving ones are on there. So if you can't find them on YouTube, you'll definitely find them on there. The Bevellers is not on YouTube, but it is on the Internet Archive. It's just right in my wheelhouse, Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, really, really vivid, authentic characters. Incredibly well performed. I mean, I know I said before, but Leonard Maguire's performance is fucking astonishing. I could not believe how good. I mean, it's almost like they found an old fucking broken down Jakey on the street.
It really is.
Absolutely fantastic. And very much sort of slab boys, elephants graveyard type of vibes. Lots of talking and slagging and phrasing.
I'm an absolute sucker for a play for today, or anything that's kind of contained in 45 minutes, an hour, 15 minutes type thing. Not just that, but there's something about that. It's the coziness. You know that you're going to get a full story, and I love the element of that's why I love anthology shows. It's just the one and done. Great. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Did I like that? Did I not? I can make my mind up right now. I don't have to be like, well, I'll wait and see where it's going next week and see if I like this or not. I have had a lot of fun with Play for Today's, and there's something specific about a play like this that is very much a play, like Slab Boys, like the Steamy one set. Like, as much as I love like the Good Time Girls, for example, multiple sets, we're getting airports, we're getting oil rigs, we're getting sex flats. It's a lot. So I think whereas this, it's all contained, one set. I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I will go back and rewatch this. It was, really enjoyed it. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
You can't beat a sex flat.
Can't beat a sex flat.
There's something about the old BBC when you see stuff, even like going back to, like even now. I mean, the BBC's changed a lot since the days of Play for Today and the Wednesday Play and all that kind of thing. But, there's something kind of reassuring about the BBC. You know what I mean? Not as much now. Occasionally you get like just a superb drama series that the BBC's commissioned, like something like Line of Duty or something. We're just like, fucking hell, like this is like HBO good, and certainly looking back at Plays for Today, and I'm a bit of a nostalgialist, so I have been known to just Google BBC continuity 1981, that kind of thing. Somebody did say when it comes to the past, look, don't stare. But I have a really hard time not staring. And this is just you just from the minute that the men start taking their coats off and all this, I just felt right. This is going to be good. This is going to be a good drama. Hardly anybody had said a word. And I just thought this is going to be. I'm going to enjoy this. I know I'm going to enjoy it. And I enjoyed it even more than I expected to.
I'm with a group of men in a kind of factory setting. They've taken their coats off. Let's go. Let's see what banter is and workplace drama is going to unfold in the next hour of this play. Yeah. What situation is going to befall them? Oh, there's a big job. This is going to be good.
Right. I mean, my heart was in my mouth when they were carrying that big bit of glass.
Me
I was
too.
sure.
Yeah.
I was sure that bit of glass was going to get broken at some point in the play. And then when Charlie cut his hand,
yeah,
and it's just like fucking hell. And they don't hold back on that. I mean, even Bob's doesn't want to look at it, and he's seen it. He's seen it all before. And Charlie refuses to go and see the doctor and get it looked at and everything,
Yeah, I thought that was a nice little touch. Hard man Charlie's obviously scared of needles or scared of the doctor, because it is when they say they just stick a needle, he's like, oh, and runs away. It's like, so I find that funny,
So shall we put the Bevellers through our Swally Awards?
Let's do it, Greg. It'll be a big job, but I think we'll manage it.
Yeah, as long as we start it by 2:00. So the first award would usually be the Boaby the Barman Award for the best pub, but as we mentioned, it's all in one set. I'm sure the pub that they'll go to at lunchtime is a belter, but we don't get to see it, unfortunately. The second award then, our patron saint of the podcast, James Cosmo Award for being in everything Scottish, and there's a few to choose from here. Who would you pick on?
I went with Roddy McMillan. I mean, I feel a bit bad maybe picking him because I haven't really seen a lot of his work, but purely looking through IMDb, it seemed that he had been in just a huge plethora of things. I mean, I don't know how that compares to like 12 years on Take the High Road, but there's a few options here. What did you go for?
I went with Paul Young because I just felt that he's just been around for a long time and in a lot of stuff. But yeah,
I could take that because Paul Young was the one. I think actually maybe it happened as well with Jan Wilson, that when I was watching, I was like, oh, it's, because I didn't really look at the cast before. So when I saw Paul Young, it was like, it's Paul Young. So yeah, maybe could give it to Paul Young then.
Yeah. Next up is the Jake McQuillan Yartizu Award. It kind of has to be Charlie sucker punching Norrie in the stomach.
Yeah, I mean, the Rouger might have been trying to molest Nancy, but nobody likes a grass. So I think Norrie got his punishment for grassing.
I mean, Nancy was up for it. It was her that suggested the straw, if I remember, because the Rouger was just going to winch her on the workbench. The next award would usually be the Francis Begbie Award for gratuitous swearing, but there's not really any gratuitous swearing beyond the odd bastard.
You couldn't have put your boot in shite. I quite like that. When I'll boot you in the balls. You couldn't have put your boot in shite.
Next would be our archetypal Scottish moment. What did you pick here?
I went with the whole Teuchter chat because it just felt like the most kind of Scottish thing, but a fly pint at lunchtime, I don't know. What did you go for?
Fly pint. Well, I kind of just went with similarly to you, just the kind of humour and the banter. Like a lot of the one-liners that we were enjoying earlier, I mean, they're kind of uniquely Scottish. That sort of thing. Although sodomistic schoolboy get sounds a bit English to me. And then finally, who wins? Who's the winner of the Bevellers for you?
I went with Roddy McMillan. I mean, he wrote it. Bob's my favourite character, I think, and Norrie got on my tits too much. So yeah, I think Roddy deserves it. Really,
I'd love to learn Bevelling off Bob.
Yeah. Knows what he's talking about. He's passionate about it. Cares for the art. He'd be a wonderful teacher. Gentle. Yeah. Just squirt him in the face occasionally.
Just don't go off in his face.
Don't go off in Bob's face.
If we've learned anything. Anyway, The Bevellers was my choice, as I mentioned before, if you want to watch it, and highly recommend that you do. You can find it on the Internet Archive, along with probably another couple of hundred plays for today some of which we've covered in the podcast in times gone by. But it was my choice, which means it's your choice for the next time. So what am I watching in the next couple of weeks?
Well, we're going to do a film that I've been wanting to do for a while, as I've never seen it, and I thought it was a good excuse to do it. So it's a film from 2019, but it is set in Dundee in 1979. Davy starts promoting gigs in Dundee with two friends, which leads to a hugely ambitious Iron Maiden show. Out of his depth and in debt with gangster Fergie, Davy needs to pull off the biggest scheme of his life. And the film is called Schemers from 2019.
Cool, I never heard of it. I don't know if I've even heard of it. Cool.
Yeah. I think it gives me Beats kind of vibes.
Right.
I think, if you know what I mean. So I'm looking forward. I'm hopeful of this Schemers. I did check. I don't know. It is available. It was either on iPlayer or STV. I can have a look around, but it's definitely available, I think, on like Apple TV or Amazon somewhere.
Okay.
But, so thank you very much for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Like your friends. You do like your friends. It's important to like your friends, but you could tell your friends if you like them. You could tell them about the podcast, and you can help the podcast grow. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us cultureswally@gmail.com with anything you'd like us to cover on the podcast, anything you've seen in the news, or if you just want to say hello. If you're in California and you're listening, get in touch with the pod, because we get a lot of downloads in California, and I'm just intrigued. I'm just really intrigued by this. So get in touch. We have a wonderful website as well, don't we, Greg?
We do. You can find us at cultureswally.com with links to all our episodes and articles and blog posts about Scottish television and film.
Wonderful. Right. Well, I'm off to pack a bit more. I'm packing. I'm moving house, but I'll probably record Schemers in this studio, and then we'll be
that'll be
in
the
the
last
next one. Yeah, in the next one. So we'll see. Schemers will be good, but then we'll see how the next one is, if I've got sound quality up to scratch. But there we go. What about yourself? You up to anything exciting?
I'm going to have some lunch. So it's about 1 o'clock here. We've had an early start today. I'm pretty hungry, so I'll have some lunch. And then, do you know what? I've nothing hanging over me, so I think I'm just going to have a lovely day on the sofa, catch up on my programmes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely. Well, you enjoy, and until next time.
Until next time.
Have they been giving you a rough time? It sometimes happens with new boys. They haven't really hurt you, have they? That's all right then. I think you'd better get up the stairs. Where's your jacket? Well, I'll get it for you. This bag belonged to you too. Right. Come along then.